Welcome to Small Talk by Sfarim Chatter. I'm Nachi Weinstein. On this episode of Small Talk, I'm going to be joined by Rabbi Alan Schwartz, who is the Rav of 38 years of Congregation of Tzedek on the Upper West Side. He's also taught for many years at Yeshiva University and Stern College, and has written a number of books, including the Four Sons Haggadah, published a critical edition of Rabbi Elazar Rakech, on Sefer Mishlei, and has also, what we'll be discussing today, written now 5 books, Parashah, Sheleimah on Parashah, and we're going to be focused on the newest volume, which is on Dvarim, and published through Mosaic Press. So thank you, Rabbi Schwartz, for joining me.
Thanks, Nachi. It's a pleasure to be on your program, and look forward to talking about the book.
What can you tell the listeners about this book and really all 5 volumes of Parashah, Sheleimah on Chumash?
All right, so you're going to ask what? We need another Parashah book?
Exactly.
It's have to be some kind of a draw. So here's what it is. It's called Parashah Sheleimah for a reason. I start off in the introduction with the tour who says that Shabbos davening is a trip through world history. We start off Tachalis Mesei Shemaim Ba'aretz, to creation. In Shacharis, we move towards Yismach Moshe B'matnas Chelko, Yitzias Mitzrayim, and Matan Torah. And then in Musaf, we move to a time we're not there yet. We move to a time where V'sham Na'aseh Lefanechas Kabanos Chavoseinu of Yemos HaMashiach, when we'll bring once again renew our avodah on Harabayas. And then in Mincha, we say Atah Echad V'Shimcha Echad, plugs into that pasuk in Zechariah, V'yabah Yom Ahuya Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad. The Gemara asks, is God not one today? It's talking about Olam Haba, where God's name will be pronounced the same way it's spelled. It's a little esoteric. It means that we don't fully understand the Kadosh Baruch Hu in this world where there's a lot of darkness. But in Olam Haba, even past Yemos HaMashiach, in Olam Haba, everything will be so clear that it'll be Ki'ilu Yom Echad Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad, which is why Mincha starts with those words. So there are 4 Divrei Torah on each parsha, many of which throughout the 54 parshas of the year, go through historical events and learn messages from history that are connected to that particular parsha. Right, on Parashas Chukas, we discussed Nebuch, the burning of the Torahs in Paris that happened on the Friday right before Parashas Chukas, and many people fast on the Friday before Chukas, regardless of the day of the month. And it goes through events in Bayis Rishon and Bayis Sheni, a lot of Tanakh. So that Shabbos is a day that runs through history, and it manifests itself in these 4 elements of the Divrei Torah. The first one is Friday night. The second one is an introduction to the Torah that goes Yismach Moshe. The third Dvar Torah breaks from that. It's a reflection of the Haftorah for that Shabbos. The fourth Dvar Torah now gets back to that system, which is the main drasha of Shabbos. And then we have 5, 6, 7, 8, and 5, 6, 7, and 8, which is 5 is a Musar moment, 6 is a Dvar Torah from the Parsha that connects to a birth, a bris, a Shalom Zochar. 7th Dvar Torah is for B'nai Mitzvah. The 8th Dvar Torah is for marriage, Sheva Brachas, Vort. And the 9th Dvar Torah now goes back to Shalosh Shudas. So Dvar Torah 1, 2, 4, and 9 are those trips through history. 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are events in your life, which is really the subtitle of the book, is applying the weekly Torah reading to life's events and celebrations. It's Shabbos connects Jews all over the world. You can be living in Australia and going to a Sheva Bracha. You can have a bris in South Africa. You can have a bar mitzvah in Toronto, and everyone is going to say a similar Dvar Torah for all these events. And someone can have a Levaya tomorrow and also take something out of the Parsha. So the Parsha is a great unifier of Kol Klal Yisrael. And this book is meant really more for Balabatim than for Rabbanim, but I think Rabbanim might find it useful as well. Is someone invites you to come to a vort in tonight, and can you say a 5-minute Dvar Torah? Just look up Dvar Torah number 8 on that Parashah, and you've got something that's very workable, very easy to take down. Each Dvar Torah really has 3 or 4 parts to it that you can take some of it, take all of it, and it's right there ready for use. And I didn't mention Dvar Torah number 10 yet, which is really a chance for good scholarship in this work, which is taking a word of the Parsha. It could be a rare word, it's sometimes a more common word, and I'm going to start with an example of that in Sefer Devarim, which is to take a phrase or a word that appears in the parsha, and then we analyze that phrase. I remember in the first parsha in Bamidbar, because the word lemishpachosehem appears so often, lemishpachosam. So I analyzed the word mishpacha. It's really a very, very great diversity of opinion to discuss what is the source of the word mishpacha. What does it come from? Is it shifcha? Is it probably the most accurate determination is like the Radak says in his Sefer Shorashim, which comes from the same word as sapachas, which is something that spreads out. Your mishpacha spreads out. You have your children, your grandchildren, your cousins. It's something that spreads. Not thematically, but linguistically, like a sapachas. Sfacheni means to gather on and to hold on to. So this is what a mishpacha does. The Dvar Torah number 10 that I'd like to start with, and I'll work our way down, is the word pishnayim in Parshas Kiseitze. The Torah says that if a man has 2 sons, let's for just argument's sake say he's giving $3 million to the 2 sons. It says that he has to give pishnayim to his bechor. So he gets twice as much as all the other brothers. In this case, there are just 2 of them. So he's going to get $2 million. The other one gets $1 million. So most English translations render pishnayim as a double portion. However, I'd like to argue, based on the way these 2 words appear elsewhere in Tanakh, only 2 other places, that it's possible that it means something else. Now, the 2 other places the terminology pishnayim appear is one is questionable, one is not questionable at all. The questionable one is where Eliyahu is about to go up Shemayim, and he tells his Talmud Muvhak, Elisha, tell me what you want, and I'll see if I can grant it to you. And Elisha asked, I want to be pishnayim of whatever you are in this world. Pishnayim of your ruach. The Gemara no doubt understands this to mean twice as great as you, because there are Gemaras in Shas that discuss how Elisha did things that Eliyahu did twice as often. However, I'd like to suggest, while that certainly can be what it means, based on certainly Parshas Kiseitze, where it says the Bechor gets pishnayim, that based on the 3rd time that this phrase appears, which is in Zechariah, where Zechariah speaks about a terrible tragedy where pishnayim of the Jews in that place will perish. I hope that is a prophecy about the Holocaust, because it's a pre-Milchemes Gog Magog prophecy. And it says that there would be such a terrible tragedy that 2/3 of the Jews in that area will perish. And then it says right afterwards, the hashlish, the remaining third, it says pishnayim shall perish, and the shlish, that pretty much proves that the pishnayim means 2/3. The shlish, the remaining third, will build back the nation and lead its way till the next chapter, which is chapter 14 in Zechariah, which speaks about the Haftarah, first day of Sukkot, which speaks about God saving His people from all of the wars that are going on at the time. So pishnayim in Zechariah definitely means 2/3. Pishnayim in Parshas Kiseitze can mean 2/3 when you have. It definitely means 2/3 if you have 2 sons. And in with Eliyahu and Elisha, it's an incredible chutzpah to tell your Rebbe is Eliyahu, and you have to be twice. He can't be just as great as Eliyahu. No, he was asking to be 2/3 as great as Eliyahu, and And Eliyahu said, if you see me go up to Shemayim, it's a difficult thing to ask for, but you'll get it. To ask for to be twice as great, I understand Chazal were ready to accept such a thing, but here's the kicker, and this is what I usually do in Dvar Torah number 10. I bring some kind of raya sometimes from archaeology, sometimes from other languages of what the word means, sometimes employing a metathesis, which is letters like kesev, keves, something like simla, salma. There are over 100 of those in the Tanakh. And what I do with the Pishnayim is to record a verse in Sefer Shmuel that refers to a pim, haptzira pim, that when the Jews sharpened their war implements, it says in Shmuel Aleph, Perikut Gimel, haptzira pim. The sharpening of it was a pim. So Rashi says it's a difficult word. It's called a hapax legamina, a word that only appears once in the whole Tanakh. Ein lo chaver, and Rashi says, I think that the word pim there means the plural of peh, that a knife or a sharp object might have different serrated edges, and they sharpened the serrated edges, the pim. Rav Yosef Kara, Rashi's Talmud Chaver, says, I'm pretty sure that the plural of peh is piot or pifiot. I don't know what a pim is either, but he calls into question this interpretation of pim. So we have pretty much settled what a pim is now. We've found 6 so far. It's the rarest of all weights from the ancient world. The standard weight is called the shekel, because that's why the word to weigh is lishkol. So the standard weight is a shekel, and then we have a lot of other weights from the ancient world, some of which are mentioned in the Tanakh. The most popular one is a beka, which means to cut something in half. So a beka is a chatzi shekel. It's half shekel. A pim is a little bigger than a beka. And I know someone who has one of these 6 pim. It's carbon dated for over 3,000 years ago. And you can't touch it with your fingerprints because your acid and your fingers will affect it. You want to make sure you only touch this thing with a glove. And I weighed it on a diamond scale with a proportion to a shekel. And it weighed, with a lot of decimal points, 0.670128 of a shekel, which looks very much like a 2/3 measurement. And in fact, in all the biblical coin books, the biblical weight books that have existed in the last 50 years, they all include the pim, of course. There are pictures of them. It's a spherical small stone with the word pim written across the front in Ksav Ivri. You can read it if you read Ksav Ivri. The mem looks like running water. The yud looks almost like a yud, and the pei looks like a mouth. So, like a peh. So the word pim is clearly written across this object. And the Das Mikra Tanakh commentary includes a picture of the pim, and so do some other more recent traditional Perushim to Sefer Shmuel. And all the books say that a pim is 2/3 of a shekel. And I'm suggesting in this Dvar Torah number 10 for Kiseitze that the reason why it's called a pim is because the words pishnayim, meaning 2/3, couldn't fit across the front of this small spherical object, so they shortened it to pim, and that explains the word in Sefer Shmuel. So this is what Dvar Torah number 10 does. Again, going backwards, Dvar Torah number 9 is usually for Shalosh Shudas Torah. Usually it's some kind of a gematria or some kind of a real chap of some kind of an amazing coincidence. In this same Parashah, I talk about the Vilna Gaon's rendition of history from 1240 to 2240, which he calls the Age of Mashiach, based on psukim in all the books of Sefer Devarim. And when he told someone this, he said, well, okay, where are you in Sefer Devarim? And he probably was ready, waiting for it. So he said, well, this Kiseitze is the years 5501 to 5600, which is 1741 to 1840, which is when he lived. And he said, I'm in Parshas Kiseitze. It says, Even Sheleimah Yelachem, and my name is Eliyahu ben Shlomo. So there I am, Even Sheleimah, Aleph ben Shlomo. So, and he was, if he says, if you're an historian, you'll be able to do this throughout the Sefer. So we are straddling Kisavo and Nitzavim Vayelech right now, which Nebuch is, the Holocaust and the subsequent return to Zion. So that's really manifest in these parshios. Okay, so this is what Dvar Torah number 9 usually does, and 8 is a marriage Dvar Torah. And again, it's really rich material. Usually, it goes about a page or two. The Divrei Torah are short, they're crisp, they're fast, they're very easily digestible. It's a combination of English and a little bit of Hebrew, and most of the Hebrew is transliterated, but also some of it is written in Hebrew. And there is a very important to always read the footnotes. These footnotes are very extensive. They are comprehensive. I want to give a shout out to my son Eli Schwartz and my son-in-law Rabbi Eli Schwartz and my son-in-law Rabbi Joel Yisrael Bloom, who did amazing work looking up every source, and there are thousands of them in each volume. Literally, there's easily 100, 120, 130 on each parsha. So there are many sources. They looked up each one to make sure that if it says Shmos 17:7, it's not Shmos 17:8, and if it says Bava Basra Daf Mem Vava Mid Beis, it's not Bava Metzia Mem Vava Mid Beis or Bava Basra Mem Zayin Mid Beis. They looked up every single source to make sure that it's properly sourced, so that you don't have to look up too far to look up these things. And so you really have to work with the footnotes, and it's very accessible. Torah number 7 again goes down to B'nai Mitzvah. Who hasn't been asked to talk at a bar mitzvah of a grandchild or a cousin, or you don't have to be a rabbi to be asked. You go to the bris or something, and you this way you have your divrei Torah all set. It's like a Shulchan Aruch. Torah number 5 is one of my favorites in each parsha, which is a what's called a Musar moment. It starts off with a Musar moment, and then it gives you something in the parsha that touches upon that Musar moment, and then it ends with another Musar moment that touches upon the same thing. Here, this one for Kisavo is even more than aptitude, an attitude of gratitude will go a long way to determine our altitude. Okay, that's a little hokey, but each parsha has some of them original. If I quote someone else, then I always give the quotation and tell where it comes from. The number 5 in Parashah Shoftim, which is about leadership. Ultimately, the only power to which we should aspire is that which we exercise over ourselves. And then afterwards, the best form of government is one that guides us to govern ourselves. And I show how much the United States is similar to Israel, and why people who hate Israel are likely to hate America, and people who love Israel are likely to love America, and vice versa, because our nations are set up similarly. And I point this out throughout Parsha Shoftim, which is our parsha of leadership, that both nations were born out of removing the yoke of tyranny, Mitzias Mitzrayim, and the yoke of King George III. And we have an executive, the Melech. We have a judiciary, the Shofet. We have the legislator, the Kohen, and we have a system whereby all three of those ought to be able to be even mercilessly and realistically, though, accused by a fourth column, a fourth institution that can set those three right if they go wrong. In Israel, of course, that's the Navi. So we have the Melech, Shofet, Kohen, Navi, which spells the word Mishkan, that if those leaders are working well, then we set up a sanctuary place for God's Shekhinah to reside. And in America, that's supposed to be, although they're not prophetic necessarily, but they're supposed to be true, is a media that is totally unconstrained from criticizing those other institutions the way they feel they need to, and without fear of reprisal. And if the media is not doing their job, it's just as bad as when in Israel it's rampant case of Navi Sheker. Or if a Navi is afraid because of the king, that's also very bad. When Eliyahu was afraid of Izebel and Achav, that's a very bad situation. So Navi has to work alongside the Melech. He has to have respect for the Melech. If he wants to rebuke the Melech, he does it the way Nassan rebuked David, and everything will work well. Then we have a Mishkan. But if not, the both nations would suffer. Okay, I'm going to now bring the floor back to you if you'd like to ask any other questions.
Yeah, I think you covered a lot of things. Usually I have a couple different questions. You did cover a lot. I do want to mention for listeners
Should
that
I continue?
I want to mention that you have a Haggadah as well, the Four Sons Haggadah, which I've used in the past, which is very enjoyable, also published by Mosaica. And now you have 5 volumes. I'll link to them in the show notes. I just want to finish off with ask you is, you kind of alluded to this before, but who is Parashah Sheleimah meant for?
So I'd say that it's more of Balabatim, but I think Rabbanim can use it as well. My students, I have by now thousands of students from many years of teaching at YU, and they sometimes call me and say, "Hey, I'm using this material for a shir I'm giving or other things like that." I have some students in good high places. I want to give a shout out to. Because he gives me shout outs all the time in some of his people listen to him. I think he has a broader audience, Rabbi Shalom Rosner, who took me 5 or 6 times at YU, and we have similar styles, and I'm reading his work called Shalom Rav, and I see it's a lot of similar stuff. And it's really it's wonderful to contemplate that it's really meant for Balabatim, but it's also available and ready for use for a Rav who has to quickly come up with something for a bar mitzvah, a wedding, a shavuot bracha, speak under the chuppah, or speak at a bris or something like that. So that's really I would say it's for that person as well. And it's I would hope that everyone can find a place for it in their library.
Okay, I will link to that in the show notes. And thank you, Rabbi Schwartz, for joining me on the podcast.
It's a pleasure. Look forward to following up with you.